We are less than 2 weeks away from NFL free agency beginning, and here are 5 players I think the Bengals should be looking at to target in free agency. One free agent I think the Bengals should target is right guard James Daniels. He just finished up a 3-year contract worth $26 million with the Steelers, and with Cincinnati releasing Alex Kappa, they're in desperate need of getting a starting right guard. I think this makes a lot of sense. James Daniels was one of the better guards this year in the NFL. His 92.9 PFF grade was second among all guards in the National Football League. Kappa was the weakest link to this Bengals offensive line this past season, allowing the most pressures, hurries, and sacks among all guards in the league. Not only would Daniels help this Bengals offensive line immediately, it would also hurt the Steelers' offensive line. So not only is it great to get a new starting offensive lineman who's a major upgrade, you're also hurting your division rival by them losing their starting offensive lineman. I think this makes a lot of sense here. James Daniels, to me, like I mentioned, 3 years, around 26. I would figure that's probably what he's going to get. Very doable for Cincinnati. You're looking around maybe $8 or $9 million a year. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm definitely doing that. James Daniels to Cincinnati would be great for the Bengals. Another player I think the Bengals should look at into free agency is right guard Will Hernandez. Hernandez suffered a knee injury in week 5 and he was out for the year with that injury. But before he got injured, he had a career year. He had a career high in his PFF grade. In 163 pass blocking snaps, he did not allow a hit or a sack. With Kappa being released, the Bengals desperately need a right guard, whether it's during free agency or the draft. They need to get one. I think it would be much smarter to just go ahead and sign one, whether it's Daniels or Hernandez, because we've seen time and time again the Bengals cannot properly develop offensive linemen. You're better off spending 6, 7, 8 million on getting Hernandez or Daniels, getting that right guard to replace Kappa, and then draft somebody else instead of drafting a right guard. But whether it's Hernandez or Daniels, that's definitely an upgrade over Kappa. I would prefer Daniels of the two. He's been more consistent the past couple of years. He might be a little bit more, maybe a couple million per year more than Will Hernandez, but I think that might be worth it. But Will Hernandez and James Daniels are 2 players who I think the Bengals should really be looking at when it comes to free agents and targets. Another player I think the Bengals should target is defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike. This past season, he had 1.5 sacks, 28 tackles, and 13 quarterback hits. I know this might not be great numbers, but when you watch him play, he has a much more impactful presence on defense than what the stats may show. And with the Bengals releasing Sheldon Rankins, and that signing was a complete bust, and BJ Hill being a free agent, the Bengals desperately need a defensive tackle. Onwuzurike is somebody that would desperately help this Bengals defensive line, which outside of Trey Hendrickson is pretty much non-existent. It would probably cost around $8 to $10 million. And with them cutting Rankins and Kappa, you have more cap space than you did just a couple weeks ago. So you have more of a flexibility to get a guy like Onwuzurike or James Daniels or some of these guys that would really help this Bengals team. I'm not sure how likely it is a deal is done with the Bengals, but this would be a huge impact signing for the Bengals. Another player I think the Bengals might target is wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr. He spent the first 3 seasons of his career with the Panthers, and this past year he spent it with the Raiders. Marshall is definitely the least impacting player I'll be talking about, but I think it could happen with the connection with Burrow and Chase, and with the uncertainty of Jermaine Burton. I think it would be a good idea if Cincinnati got another receiver. In 43 career games, he has 67 receptions for 808 yards and 1 touchdown. He was a second-round pick back in the 2021 draft, and he has definitely not lived up to that selection several years ago. I think a change in scenery might be best for Marshall. We've seen it time and time again these last couple of years. The Bengals have got some high draft picks and they kind of revive their career. Look at Eli Apple, Hayden Hurst, just to name a few. Who knows, maybe Terrace Marshall Jr. is the next one. I think there's a decent chance the Bengals could end up signing free agent wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr. The final player I think the Bengals should sign in free agency is edge rusher Derek Barnett. That signed a 1-year contract worth $2 million last offseason with the Houston Texans. This season with the Texans, he had 7 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. When you look at the lack of pass rush the Bengals had this past season, it is really, really alarming. If Trey Hendrickson goes down, we have no pass rush whatsoever. Outside of Hendrickson, the only player to have 5 sacks on the season for the Bengals was Joseph Ossai, and he is a free agent. Regardless if the Bengals re-sign Ossai or not, they still need to get another pass rusher. I think Derek Barnett would be really good for Cincinnati. I think it's a better value signing than if he were to sign Chase Young for $10 to $12 million a year, and if he got 7 sacks. It's much more money to go get a guy like Young. You can save some money by getting maybe not as good of a pass rusher in Derek Barnett, but that money you save could go towards extensions and signing some other, bigger free agents. But I think Derek Barnett at Cincinnati would be a really nice pickup here for the Bengals. That about does it for this video. If you're new to my channel or have seen videos before, make sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hines Show.